right. All right. That sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds good. What about me?
Oh,
Do I sound fine?
yeah, you sound scrumptious. All right, guys. Well, welcome back to the Thought Void podcast.
What it do?
I am one of your hosts, Vance Miller, and the other boyo is Esden.
What up?
And
That's
today we're
me.
covering his topic, which is,
We're doing the cheese tunnels.
oh,
I'm
yeah,
so fucking hyped for this. This is
I
gonna be
am
so
too.
funny.
I'm really looking forward to this.
Um, First, just thank you for listening. We can be found on pretty much every audio platform. And shout out to the YouTube. The views over there, the supports over there has been immaculate.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. We love you guys over on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify if you're not able to watch YouTube at work or
Yes.
something. You can always pull us up on Apple Music, Spotify, any of that shit. So you're never going to be without us in your domes.
Now, with the formalities out of the way, I want to say a warning before we get
Oh
into
no.
the cheese tunnels, because like whatever happens to you because you know this information is not our responsibility.
Is this bad? Are you going to get all of us killed?
No,
Are you going to kill the God Force?
I am cursing the God Force.
Nice.
Um, no, but like you know how we joke around that there's like one schizophrenic guy that's like freaking out every time we do an
Yeah.
episode. This episode will 100% trigger paranoia if you are, prone to that.
Thank God. Because honestly, I was worried it wouldn't.
Yeah. Um,
Schizo Joe, sorry to you.
yeah. So, do you like cheese, Vance?
My diet, I would say, is at least 35% cheese.
Let's go. Do you have a
I
favorite cheese?
blue cheese.
You like blue cheese? Do you
I
eat like
love blue cheese.
I don't mind like a little bit of blue cheese on like a good burger or something or like a good sandwich, but like
Okay.
huge chunks of it kind of freak me out.
So there's this specific kind I like. It's wrapped in a black wax,
Ooh.
and you just slice that, put it on a nice Ritz or a nice
Mm,
Triscuit of your
hmm.
flavor choice,
Yeah.
and it almost tastes like tires, but
What?
it's just good. It's so
Is that why
good.
you like cars? You like sucking on the hot rubber pieces of it?
I like to shave pieces off of my tires and chew on them.
You can like custom your tread that way and
It's all
then
like
eat
bite
it.
marks.
Yeah. Guys, look at my new tires, and there's like huge human like teeth are sticking out of it.
They're great in the snow.
I recently got we went to this farmer's market. We got a little wheel of cheese that's like smoked Munster or some shit like that
Yum.
with habanero in it.
Beautiful.
So good. So good.
Smoked Gouda. I get
Oh,
down with a smoked Gouda.
dude, I had this smoked Gouda spread not too long ago. Mmm, so good.
So happy for you.
Um, well, I have some cool factoids about cheese. Do you know
Hell yeah.
there's more than 1,800 types of cheese in the world?
And I want to try every one.
I want to try every single one of those. The oldest cheese ever discovered was discovered in 2018, and it was 7,200 years old. It was found in Egypt.
Quick side note, they found the oldest wine in the world recently
Ooh.
in an Egyptian tomb, but the wine is undrinkable because
Mm. Hmm.
the whoever was buried in that tomb, his ashes are in the wine.
Whoa.
But it was a white wine, but over time it turned to a red wine, and I guess like they tested it and it had a lot of salt in it, and they're not sure, I don't think, if that's like the body or the
Maybe it's like
actual
a
wine.
weird a weird combination of the salt and the ashes, maybe?
Probably. It's definitely not what it used to be. But it is an old wine, so that's cool.
Well, you can't eat the 7,000-year-old cheese. I think the oldest you can eat is about 40 years old, and then after that, I don't quote me on
Really?
that, but that's what I heard.
Okay. Does it get like too hard all the way through, or does
I
it get like poison?
I think it becomes probably poisonous because of the mold.
Literally turns to rat poisoning.
I had this like this long conversation with my girlfriend about like where the names of cheese comes from. So I
Okay.
wanted to mention that too because I didn't think that anybody, I mean, who the fuck knows this information? Kobe cheese gets its name from Kobe, Wisconsin, where it was made in 1885.
Whoa.
And then Monterey Jack cheese gets its name because it was made in Monterey, California in the 1700s.
No
And then when you,
shit.
and then when you combine the two, that's where Kobe Jack comes from.
I
So
love that.
I
Thank
thought
you
that
for
was fun. Yeah,
that.
I thought this kind of pertained a little bit to what we're going to be talking about. That cheese happens to be Very addictive. It actually, when you eat it, your brain releases opiates.
Nice. So
So
we're
it's like
getting
it's
high on cheese.
you can actually be addicted to cheese, and I'm 100% addicted to cheese because dude, I eat so much fucking string cheese.
I eat like if I get a brick of cheese
Oh, dude.
and I have a knife out and I got my box of Triscuits,
Oh,
rosemary Triscuits to be exact, I'll
man
eat
of culture.
most of the block in one
We,
sitting because I'm disgusting.
dude, I love a good. We do that with like pepper jack cheese. Oh,
With the chunks of like peppers and stuff in there.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it's so good. I've always wanted to make my own cheese.
just don't shower for a few months and you will have a
I
cheese.
will have cheese. Did you also know that the United States government owns 1.4 billion pounds of cheese that they store underground in over 500 bunkers and tunnels throughout the United States?
Why? Is it not all, is it eat edible? Like,
Yeah, you can eat it as of
interesting.
right now.
Why? Is there a reason?
We're gonna get into that.
Is that what this is all
This
about?
is all about the cheese tunnels.
Beautiful.
So, and along that, you have been psyoped into eating more cheese. I promise you.
Okay.
You have been convinced that you
Because
like
of this
cheese.
episode or because of the government?
Well, this is exactly part of the psyop, is us talking about it.
Oh fuck.
We're part of
we're
the
a government
system.
plant. It's fine.
We are. So, the biggest like bunker or cheese tunnel is under Missouri. The two biggest actually, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And they are stored in old limestone mines that are kept at a perfect 36 degrees Fahrenheit.
Now, is that with electricity or literally just because it's far enough underground?
I think it's partially refrigerated because it costs the government over $1 million a day to keep it that way.
A day?
Yeah.
Bro.
Like we were talking about that. I was going through this with my girlfriend before we started recording, and it's like I'm not trying to get controversial, but don't you think there's like infinitely more positive impacts that money could have than just fucking holding
Hey,
a
man.
billion cheese or pounds of cheese?
I get where you're coming from, okay?
Yeah.
But cheese
I mean, dude,
is
I
clogged with cheese.
like my
I'm
arteries
okay with my tax dollars going towards
to protect the cheese. Do you think, dude, you know it's fucking hilarious? I just thought of this. It's like when the world inevitably goes into World War III and we all start dying, we could survive in the cheese tunnels.
Can you survive on cheese though, strictly?
Probably not. I mean, I guess it depends on if the cheese has different like vegetables and stuff in it. Like, you know, like could you get like a pepper cheese and then like a how much
For what? For like vitamins?
Yeah,
from
like
vegetables?
could you hypothetically live off of different cheeses as long as the cheese itself contained different foods?
While cheese does have several important nutrients, no one can live on cheese alone.
Did you Google it?
That's a Google search.
That's depressing. I
Google
bet you
says
I could.
no. I could
No,
do it. Fuck
that's
Google.
That's part of the psyop.
All right, guys. For the next 6 months, all of us are just eating cheese.
We're only allowed to eat cheese.
And we're gonna see how we do.
It doesn't matter what kind of cheese. It could be schmegma for all I care. You can make your own cheese and eat it if you want to, but it just has to be cheese. I wonder if like, sorry to interrupt you, but I wonder how like okay, if you just ate mozzarella and I just ate Kobe Jack and somebody else only ate Gouda, which one of us would last longer? You know, which one has like a higher nutritional value?
I don't know. I feel like the reason why you can't survive on cheese alone is because of the sodium.
And you would never shit any. You would just
you
would be clogged up.
Your stomach would split and shit would just come out of you.
You would be. It would look like you were pregnant. Your belly button would pop out.
Oh, 100%. You'd be so
like
hard.
And then I wonder how that would affect like your sweat. I feel like your sweat would eventually start to have like its own cheesy smell.
You know, like those Play-Doh videos where they like squish it through like something that has a bunch of little holes in it?
Yeah.
It would just be like little cheese noodles coming out of our pores.
Oh. Be like a weird zit.
At Olive Garden, they would come to your table with like a human. Be like, all right, tell me when to stop. And they would just put a cheese grater on his face and they'd be grinding all like the pores out.
They're just like squeezing his nose pores onto your salad.
This is good.
This is good content. This is a really solid start to the episode.
This is awful.
Okay, this whole dilemma of the cheese tunnels actually has connections back to the Prohibition.
Of course it does. Why wouldn't it?
Yeah, basically, okay, the Prohibition lasted about 13 years from 1920 to 1933, and that's when they banned alcohol, right? So in response to that, instead of like social outings and shit for like, oh, we're gonna go to the bar, it was or let's have a few drinks. They try to replace it with ice cream.
And that's where the diabetes epidemic started.
It's a psyop inside a psyop. So the dairy market obviously had to produce more cream and more milk for the ice cream that was being bought in replacement for alcohol for that, decade or so. And then around that same time frame, World War I and World War II also caused dairy farmers to basically be able to survive solely off of farming dairy because we were sending so much meals and food over to the army and other like foreign parties as relief and stuff. So there was a market for cheese and other dairy products. So the war and the ban of alcohol kind of all bleeded together to like support this like empire of dairy farmers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But after everybody kind of recouped from the war and obviously alcohol was, the prohibition was lifted, everything just kind of went to shit. So the farmers that were strictly dairy farmers couldn't just survive solely off of milk and even cheese anymore. And they had to start farming other things. But because they had bought all this land and all this equipment for farming and milk, they couldn't make their money back. So a lot of foreclosing happened and a lot
That's
of land.
actually so sad.
Yeah. And
It had to be such a stressful time.
Could you imagine like you build your whole life up on this one thing and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, this is not it anymore. So a bunch of farmers went into hella debt and then the equipment prices shot through the roof and land was just tanking. And then all those problems even doubled in the late 70s, early 80s. So if it couldn't get any worse, everything was just falling apart basically for the dairy farmers. And because of this, inflation happened. Nobody was buying milk and stuff anymore because the prices were so high, so people couldn't stay in business. And the whole dairy industry was gonna collapse.
Do you imagine if we've just never had milk?
We just stopped having dairy, no
like
cheese.
If this little time period actually like had even more severe effect and we just completely never had milk or cheese again, we'd all have broken bones.
Well, it's funny you say that because that ties into the psyop, the idea that
oh my God.
Well, okay. This is what I'm saying. This is gonna get so like deep. The government is controlling everything.
I'm thinking this is gonna lead to a fucking rat maze.
Yeah. No cheese. You get it? Because rats like cheese.
You see what I did there, boys?
That was so funny. That's comedy right there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wonder because like not like part of our parents' generation and the generation before that, like they just have milk for dinner, like with their spaghetti. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was a thing, bro. Instead of a glass of water, it'd be a glass of milk, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Isn't that weird? Like I feel like that's weird. Do you think
that's why that generation's so angry all the time because they're full of GMOs?
They're full of hormones. Do you think if, let's say, this happened and all of the milk went to shit, they would have invented like almond milk and oat milk or later, like earlier?
Yeah, I would think so. You'd assume. I mean,
you would
I don't
assume,
think it'd
right?
be like an extinct product. I feel like there would just be different avenues to get it for a cheaper way.
Okay. Oh, dude, speaking of cheese, this is just total random. People who are lactose intolerant can have goat cheese.
Interesting.
Right? I wonder if that means they can have. Wait a minute. Yeah.
I mean,
I talked to somebody.
Cheese is like some of my favorite cheese.
I don't think I've ever had goat cheese.
Dude, if you try it, it's a slippery slope.
Is it scary?
You'll gain at least 6 pounds in a couple days.
Let's
after
go.
you discover it.
You know what's really good, and this is gonna sound really gross.
Oh no.
Is cottage cheese in like Doritos.
I could see that.
My
I'd be down
mom,
with that.
my mom told me about that, and I was kind of like, Mom, that sounds kind of gross. But then I tried it, and I was like, this is what God intended. You could eat like a whole tub in one sitting.
Oh God. It's just under your skin is like bumpy, like cottage cheese.
You can like push on it and hear like that.
Yes. You can pop your boils and it'd just be dairy
cottage
squirting
cheese.
from you. My dad would just open up the big cottage cheese container, put some pepper in there, take a fork and eat it. And then once he gets through his peppered layer, either put more pepper on and keep eating or put it away.
I respect that.
Yeah. So there's that.
So while this was happening, World War II ended, and then all of the collapse of the dairy market. On top of all of that, President Jimmy Carter stopped the shipment of farm products to Russia in the 80s because he saw that as punishment because Russia was invading Afghanistan, which
Oh, that's kind of like now.
in a way, and that also hurt farming markets, but because the dairy farmers were already in a hurting position, this action also kind of fucked them even more, right?
Hmm,
So, in response to this, there was massive inflation for dairy products and a really intense shortage of dairy products.
makes sense.
And the government was like, we need dairy. I don't know why they were so obsessed with it, but they intervened to try to balance out the inflation and help farmers. So they bought billions of pounds of cheese to stop the market from collapsing. Now, originally, some of it was cream and some of it was milk, but because they needed it to last longer on the shelf, they turned it all into cheese.
So, is this where the term government cheese comes from?
Yes, actually.
Because that would make sense.
Exactly. It's exactly where it comes from, where it's like, but it's like, oh, you live off government cheese, don't you? It's like, yeah, well, because the government has a metric fuck ton of cheese.
They have all of the cheese in the world underground
In Missouri
right now.
But yeah, basically the government started to buy up all of the unbought products to give money to these farmers, and that meant that the farmers could make as much product as they possibly could and as much as they wanted, and the government would buy all the excess that wasn't selling.
Oh, dude, I would be grinding.
That's exactly what happens. So that's why there's
Yes.
so much cheese. And then so you're wondering, like, where does that all go when no one's eating it? And I want to introduce you to this concept that I stumbled upon called the cheese mountains.
Cheese mountains.
So it started as a cheese mountain. By 1981, over 500 million pounds of cheese were stockpiled into the cheese mountain. And then as it grew, it became, the cheese caves because they needed to put it somewhere to support all of this cheese.
So they had to hollow out the cheese mountain to make cheese
cheese
caves.
tunnels. Exactly.
This sounds like a great vacation destination.
Well, you can visit these cheese tunnels
What?
and get guided tours.
Oh my God. I swear I haven't read any of this. This has just been shared with me, and I'm just nailing all of this.
Yeah.
I guess you can call me a bit of a cheesehead.
You can go to Springfield and Kansas City, Missouri, and you can get tours to the larger or more notable cheese tunnels, and they'll show you how cheese is made and the storing process and like how long it's there.
And if this episode gets 1 million views, we will record from the cheese tunnels.
Yes, 100%. We should go on like a trip there.
Oh yeah, I would love to. I'll bring my Triscuits. You
Just
bring some wine, and we're good to go.
We're having a great time. Speaking of that, when we move to Arizona, we have to go right through Missouri, so we're gonna make a stop and go to the cheese tunnels.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
Take a video so we can put it on the YouTube channel.
We will. After all this accumulation of cheese, Ronald Reagan became president. And he was like, why is the government spending millions of dollars every day to supply this cheese? Like store the cheese. Like he doesn't want to do this anymore. It's costing the government too much money. So what do we do? And his first idea was to throw it into the ocean.
What? There's a bunch of floating fucking discs of cheese.
And that obviously didn't happen because, like, duh.
We still got it.
The reason it didn't happen is because they were concerned about, or at least one of the reasons was because they were concerned about what foreign countries would think when cheese started to wash up on shore, and what the ecological problems would be to release billions of pounds of cheese into the ocean.
It'd be awful. Our fish would be so fat, and they would become connoisseurs, and all of a sudden they would want wine, and then we got to give them wine, and then
they would eventually take over.
Desperate Housewives on Netflix, and then we got to put that in the ocean. It's a whole thing.
And like once the fish become addicted to cheese, they're gonna need a reliance, and we're gonna have to continuously put cheese into the ocean so that they don't like die off. So obviously,
I want more cheese.
Yeah, I need some of that cheese, boy.
He's like 400 pounds, but he's actually a goldfish.
He's got like a machine to like push the water through his lungs because he can't move anymore.
It's like the ocean's version of an iron lung.
So obviously they didn't throw it into the ocean. So they started to distribute it to the people through like welfare programs. They gave it to schools and food banks and, relief programs, churches, all that. anything in regards to the public assistance. And like you said, that's where the term government cheese came from because they apparently the blocks were like 5 pound blocks of like cheese that you would
Mm.
get for free from the government.
Do
And
you know like specifically what kind of cheese, or was it just depending on what you got?
I don't really know. A lot of the pictures I saw were just orange cheese, so I just assumed cheddar cheese.
Just a bunch of cheddar.
Just huge chunks of cheddar.
Okay, I can get down with a nice cheddar.
I actually don't like cheddar cheese.
That is a hot take.
I like it, but I don't like large quantities. Like I can't just eat it off the brick. You know what I mean?
No, that's fair. I get that. I
Like
get that.
I like it with things like on like a good baked mac and cheese. Bro,
Yes.
mac and cheese sounds so good right now.
Dude, I think I might have to make some mac and cheese tonight.
Dude, do it up. Like I love a good homemade mac and cheese and all that, but like or even like a white cheddar cheese is pretty bussin', but like just a standard Kraft macaroni and cheese. Oh, dude,
Or even
I'm hard.
scallop potatoes with cheese all over
Dude,
it.
scalloped potatoes. I haven't had a good scalloped potato in a while. Damn.
Same. Man, you're making me
God, I'm
hungry this
hungry,
episode,
dude.
man.
Yeah.
Cheese. Cheese,
Cheese.
I guess I should say.
So basically, the government spends a fuck ass of money on the cheese and dairy industry and then decides that they don't want to do that anymore. So they can't throw it in the ocean and they're not getting rid of it.
You can't just fucking send it out on an island, bro.
Yeah,
Now
you can't
have
just
to
build
deal with it.
Dude, they could have built Cheese Island.
We could have Cheese Island. It would have been like a Disney attraction.
Dude, imagine how bad that would smell.
Oh, dude, to me, the stinkier and more foot smelling the cheese is, the better it tastes.
Honestly,
Stinky cheese.
there's one of my buddies said that he ate like a 20-year-old cheese and that was funky. So I could only imagine what an entire island just sitting in the ocean of cheese
In the
for
sun.
decades in the sun would smell like.
It would probably have a nice crust on it.
Oh, it probably would have like a weird mold on it. Would just be like a mold island.
It'd be the island of hair.
Wow, that would be so weird. Dude, there would definitely be some kind of like spore plague that would happen because of
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Like,
There'd
what are
be-
those Cronenberg people? That's where Cheese Island is.
You know, there would probably be some type of mutant
Mhm.
civilization that comes from that island.
Just like weird fish mold people that live under the Cheese Island.
That's Atlantis. Atlantis is cheese. And
Atlantis was the Cheese Island.
no, dude, and once global warming started to happen,
Oh shit!
it melted and just disappeared.
Into the oh.
Think
fuck.
about it.
Yep. There we go.
Atlantis equals cheese.
Cheese.
Yep.
Wow, we figured it out. We figured it out. Wow. So they couldn't throw it in the ocean, and their disbursement strategies weren't as fruitful as they'd like. So they were thought, why don't we just make the United States people pay for it for us?
Let's give it all to Wisconsin.
Pretty much. The Green Bay Packers are gonna wear it.
Exactly.
So now we're gonna dive into like kind of like the second half of the cheese tunnels, which I have titled the psyop, because we're about to be psyoped into cheese. Well, we've been basically manipulated into eating more cheese and other dairy products.
Here we go, guys. Buckle
Strap in. So do you know what a psyop is?
Explain.
Okay, so a psyop means a psychological operation. And the operations, this is just like a Google definition. So I'm just going to read word for word.
Okay.
Are to convey select information and indicators to audiences to influence their motives, objective reasoning, and ultimately the behavior of governments, organizations, groups, and large foreign powers. Does that register?
Barely, but it's there.
It's basically kind of like fake news.
Not to use the term fake news, but it's
Yeah.
fake news.
But it's kind of like putting like, I break it down. Basically, it's trying to push certain agendas and manipulate people's like motives and the way they think to favor something or disapprove of something.
Beautiful.
So this psyop was designed to subtly influence the public perception of cheese. because they wanted the US citizens to buy more cheese so that they didn't have to spend the money. So they started partnering with fast food restaurants to make extra cheese an option on the menu, or just by requiring them to put more cheese on food items.
You just get a burger from McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
And there's like 6 inches of cheese
It's like there's the
and then
top
a
bun,
little bit of burger.
and then there's the top bun and like 15 like slices of cheese, and then like the burger and pickles.
And they're like, sorry guys, we gotta fucking burn through this stuff. So just
We
deal with
have
it
to
for
do
like
with
a
this.
good 10, 20 years. We're good.
It's like, yeah, I know this is probably gonna kill off like a good 10% of all Americans, but like we need to get burned through this cheese. Okay, so an example of like a fast food restaurant kind of style restaurant that was in this was Domino's Pizza.
Nice. Cool.
So
That
they
makes
were
sense.
they were gonna go bankrupt and they were gonna go under, but the government was like,
Domino's?
yeah,
Interesting.
they,
Wow.
yeah. And so Big Daddy government stepped in and was like, no, you are not going to go under, because we're going to give you all this money to stay in biz, but you have to push cheese. You have to make your things more cheesy. You have to put cheese in bread. You have to like use as much cheese as possible.
And this is why America is one of the unhealthiest countries
In the
on the
world.
planet. Like, we're so fucked because of the cheese tunnels.
Yes.
So remember that.
And another one was Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut. Okay, so they're targeting big pizza.
Big pizza. This is big pizza.
Big
Okay.
pizza v big cheese.
You can find like letters between different people, the DMI, which we'll get into in a second, and the owners of these companies, if you really want to.
I love that there is records of these
of this.
conversations.
Yeah, like talking about like how we're gonna move forward and how they want to implement more. See, right here's a line from one of them. It says, "We believe this is going to be a valuable partnership for both Pizza Hut and DMI. Let's sell more pizza and more cheese." So the DMI was a company made to help promote the cheese psyop. So
Okay.
they're still in business.
The thing is, we love cheese, okay?
I love
But
that shit.
I don't like when there's so much cheese within a mozzarella stick that when you bite it, you just choke on it.
Yeah, like I don't want to like feel like I'm eating a spider web. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. You chew it up really well, right? But you swallow it, and there's just a string of cheese from your stomach through your esophagus to your front teeth. And you feel like you're about to lose consciousness because you are hacking and coughing on this cheese. And it's because the government is forcing cheese on us.
They're literally forcing the cheese down our throat.
Fuck. Everybody, we have to boycott big cheese.
Big cheese is out to get us. And the God Force needs to assemble to protest big cheese.
We're all wearing cheese heads with like picket signs.
It's like, stop big cheese. Stop big cheese.
But technically, we love it.
Do you know string cheese and mozzarella sticks are the same thing?
Yeah, it's just a deep fried string cheese.
It's just circumcised mozzarella stick. Like, do you want your mozzarella stick with the foreskin or not?
Yes, because usually it tastes like 14-day-old chicken wings. Because the grease never gets changed.
It never gets changed. It's just constantly boiling the same shit all the time.
Which, if you think about it, I mean, it's so hot. It's just extra flavor, baby.
It's just extra pizzazz.
It is. And your veins hate it twice as much.
It's just extra corporate America.
Yeah. Exactly.
Can I get my mozzarella sticks extra corporate, please?
They're like, absolutely. It has like a 3-inch crisp on it.
Oh, it's 90% breading and oil.
Oh,
It's just hollow on the inside.
It's just 400 degrees in the middle. The cheese is constantly bubbling.
Oh, fuck. So, do you remember the Got Milk campaign?
Yeah.
That was part of the government psyop.
Really?
Well, because what company was the Got Milk for? They weren't promoting any specific kind of milk. It was just like, drink more milk.
It was just milk.
And that was
No way.
That was part of the government trying to get us to want more dairy products. And so they would use like celebrities that everybody knew and they, with the milk mustaches, and then put up billboards and a bunch of signs and in magazines. Like, I remember being in the cafeteria at my middle school,
Yeah.
in my elementary school, because I mean, when you're hungry and you associate, oh, milk. And maybe that's probably why milk was like the thing at schools when they gave it out for like lunches. And
Probably because they just distributed to public schools.
yeah,
You were always required to
to take
grab
a
a
milk.
milk.
Yeah, like you had to. Like I remember in high school, even earlier than that, that people who were even lactose intolerant were still made to take a fucking milk.
They're like, no, I will shit
I
myself in
I
sixth
will
period.
I will blow chunks out of my ass if I have to drink this. I'm like, you're gonna take it because the government says you have to. Drink it. Drink your dairy, damn it.
The lunch lady, take it.
Take it. Hey man, I just need you to take it.
She puts you in a chokehold and points your head up and just drains it in your mouth.
She's like holding your mouth open with the carton. It's not even open. It's just she's just like shoving it in your mouth.
Then she holds her hand over your mouth until you swallow.
Oh,
Good boy. Smash
Yes.
down the ass. All right, that'll be
Yeah.
$3.
all right, that's $3.25 because you have an extra Bosco stick that's full of cheese.
Oh, it looks like your lunch account is actually overdrawn.
I'm gonna need that milk back. Oh, dude, you want to hear a really fucked up story about milk?
Yes.
Okay, so when I was in high school, I was given like a bunch of chocolate milk because my friends didn't want it, and I drank
Okay.
it. And then my stomach really hurt like earlier that day. So throughout the day, I was taking Tums, and apparently you can't mix Tums and milk because it has a similar effect of Coke and Mentos. And I didn't
No
know
way.
that. So I
What?
threw up everywhere. And it was a great day because I went home early. But just so you know, you can't take Tums and milk at the same time or you'll throw up.
That is actually insane.
Isn't that fucking weird?
I did not know that. I also have a disgusting milk story.
Bring it on.
So
This is the podcast for it.
when I was very young, early middle school, I had a friend who he had a cleft lip when he was born.
Okay.
So his nose was more like flat and like wide because it used, and his lip was kind of set weird.
Yeah.
Whatever. Good kid. But he always had like nose problems because
Mhm.
his nose was fucked up.
Yeah.
And one day at lunch, we were hanging out and he was chugging milk because we all
No.
told him to.
Oh.
And he did one of those like mouth closed coughs. So it came out of his nose. And so did
Oh.
all of the nose problems.
No.
And it was just thick, stringy milk snot stretched
Oh.
through the table. It was awful.
Oh.
He couldn't even move because there was just a spider web of snot and milk
Oh.
all over his chest, all over the table.
Dude.
So bad. And so we had to like run and grab him napkins and shit. Good memories. I still think about it. It keeps me up at night.
I have another story as well
Okay.
in relation to that. It's not my story, it's my mom's story. So my mom, her family, when she was a kid, drank milk with their dinner and they had spaghetti. And my uncle, like they were laughing. My uncle laughed so hard that the spaghetti and the milk both came out of his nose. And he just had like this milky spaghetti fluid
Ugh.
and all the noodles hanging out of his nose, and they had to like pull it out from the back of his throat. Isn't that disgusting?
Fuck me. It's kind of like when a cat eats ribbon and you have to like slowly pull it out of their
Oh,
butt so you don't rip out their intestines.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
my favorite. I use my
Yep.
teeth.
Anyway, we are so off topic.
All right. Well, I mean, it's about dairy.
I guess we're on topic, but we're off the rail.
Yeah. So, like we mentioned earlier, the DMI or the Dairy Management Incorporation was created later on. And they were kind of the ones that kind of helped with the got milk and like the whole like partnership with the pizza places. And they were also helped with the collaboration of the USDA to get big companies to buy cheese. So like, I don't know any other companies that have cheese, but like Kraft, for example, they tried to get Kraft to buy government cheese so that they would work on advertising cheese independently from the government, so the government didn't have to put the money into the advertisements.
They're like, please take our 50-year-old cheese. I promise it's good.
This mac and cheese was made with cheese from pre-World War One. It's not bad for you, I promise.
It's like $99 a box because they're trying to make it like a novelty.
I wonder if that's why there's so many fucking preservatives and like all that kind of shit, because it's like this cheese was like from 80 years ago, and you might die. So we have to put all of this shit in it so you don't.
You think, yeah, that's it. Yeah. They're trying to keep us alive
Yeah,
still on this
on this cheese from
billions of pounds of cheese.
1913 or whatever the fuck. Um, and it also was kind of to try to promote like somewhat of a competition. Like if there's more companies saying, "Hey, buy our milk products and our cheese," it'll take the more heat off the government.
Right.
And the whole aim was, like I just said, to produce more marketing. Now, this had some health controversies because they had, if you couldn't tell, I wonder why. Consuming too much cheese, I've never thought of that as a bad thing.
Oh, everyone was swollen and full of shit. Literally, everyone was
Literally full of shit. Like, so remember how earlier you said that like milk is good for your bones?
Right.
So that the idea that the calcium in the milk is good for your bones is true to an extent, but milk was kind of pushed as like the only or like the best primary source of calcium for your bones when it's arguably not. Not to say that
Really?
it doesn't have good properties for your bones and for your health, but there are other like foods that you can eat and vitamins that you can take that are on par, if not better. So that idea that like the milk is good for you and drinking as much milk as possible and eating a ton of cheese had led to some debates about like the validity of the health claims.
And now instead, we have heart disease.
And now instead we have to have triple bypasses every quarter because of the cheese. So then to kind of end the cheese part, I guess, we want to talk about the impact of this PSYOP. The impact on the dairy industry is pretty obvious, but it kind of poses some questions. How has past policy shaped the current market? So like we obviously know about the cheese one, but like what about the ones that we haven't heard about? Like how many policies have been in place that have affected our purchasing power and stuff that we don't know about, right?
Right. I mean, I guess, yeah.
And how much is the government really involved in the market and in trying to manipulate social mindsets? That's kind of the thought process that I had. Like, okay, well, if this is like, I mean, everybody loves cheese, but this one's quite obvious.
If you're a real American, then you want cheese.
Big Uncle Sam wants you to eat cheese.
We want you to eat cheese. He's wearing a cheese hat.
He's wearing one of the cheese hats. He's got like a cup of milk in his hand. So all this to be said, I got interested in what is a PSYOP, right? How does it work? So I thought we'd have a little crash course on how to run your very own PSYOP.
Let's do it. What are we going to start?
I don't know. We can start whatever we want because I have it all laid out here.
Perfect.
With graphics and everything. So this is a direct quote from the Wikipedia, this right here. So the U.S. PSYOP forces are generally forbidden to attempt to change the opinions of the U.S. persons in any location globally. However, commanders may use PSYOP forces to provide public information to the U.S. audiences during times of disaster and crisis. I don't want to sound like no conspiracy theorist, but like, why would you need to lie to us or convince us of something when the world is in? You know what I mean?
So, AKA, hey guys, we're about to not have milk ever again unless you guys buy all of this cheese.
Unless you buy billions of dollars worth of cheese, we will never have it ever again. Hold on. I'm having a technical problem.
Oh no.
There are 10 like steps to a PSYOP, right? You have to create a clear definition that aligns with the national objectives, right?
Okay.
Then you have to need a PSYOP estimate of situations. I know these might sound kind of intense, but I break it down later. You need to have a plan. You need to select a media. Then you have to build the product. Then you have to test it. And then you have to push it to the masses, implement it, and then evaluate it, and then get your feedback.
So they have to make this stuff, give it to everybody, and then decide whether or not it's good.
Pretty much.
So they're asking for forgiveness instead of permission.
Exactly. They're like, all right, let's take advantage of these people and see if we can manipulate them. And then if it backfires, we'll reconvene, figure out why it backfired, and apologize afterward.
If a shitload of people die, then we'll apologize.
and it's like if this gets brought out, then we'll talk about it. But until then, we're just gonna keep this under the radar.
Yeah, unless this whole operation is leaked, then we don't know what's going on.
We're not talking about it. We're not talking about it unless we're asked. And even then, you're gonna have to fight for it. PsyOps at any level, they have to be consistent with policies of higher command, which goes all the way up to the president of the United States. So
He just gets a. I just imagine he walks out to the mailbox, right? Opens it. He just gets an envelope with a big cheese ring on it.
and he's like,
And it
yes,
just says from Big Cheese to Mr. President.
Mr. President.
And he opens it up and deals with his cheese
It deals with the cheese,
problems.
which the government probably still, I mean, it definitely still has cheese problems.
You
They
think
need to
so?
stop. They need to, I feel like, I mean, dude, they have 1.4 billion pounds of cheese. You don't think that's a problem?
You know, I would say arguably I have been working towards helping this problem. The amount of blue cheese that I've been consuming on a almost daily basis
Oh shit, okay.
is unhealthy.
You know what
Okay? So I'm doing my part.
You're doing your part. Well, if it may, I mean, I eat cheese. I go through like a bag of string cheese like every 3 days.
We're doing our parts.
We
And
are
that's what we're asking
productive
you, the listener,
citizens
to do.
of the U.S.
You guys, we all want you guys to do your part in
and go out there and
solving
buy
the
cheese.
problem.
So with that being said, I have this graphic here that kind of like shows the chain of command when a psyop is being built up. I don't necessarily, we're going to put it up in the YouTube video, but it's more or less like, Vance, if you want to read through this or if the viewers want to read through it on their own, I don't really want to go through all this because it's got a lot of words I don't know, but it's just like the workflow of a psyop. The people at the bottom of the chain here have to make sure that it's approved through 1, 2, 3, 4, and then itself 5 levels of command before a psyop is put into it or put into play.
So these cheeses have went through the levels. And
Yeah, like
I'll just list off the levels, and if you guys want to do more research into this, that's up to you. The very top level it has to go through is the President and or Secretary Defense.
mhm.
Seems a little extreme.
Which seems in pretty this dude that meeting is like,
For
Mr. President, we
cheese.
have 500 million pounds of cheese. I don't know what to do with it. We need to psyop it to the people.
Meanwhile, we're committing Hiroshima, and then it has to go through the combatant commander.
I don't know who that is.
They have to exercise COCOM or OPCON or POTIF. So
No,
if you guys know what that means, cool.
if anyone knows what any of this jargon means, leave it in the comments.
Yeah, explain this. Explain these levels here. And then it moves on to JFC, and then it moves on to service or functional commander, and then finally it moves through the maneuver commander.
Which, if I had to guess, is like the one that starts to distribute it and shit.
I'm assuming because maneuver, they're moving
Yeah.
shit around, and the functional commander, I'm assuming, figures out how they're going to do that.
Yeah, like how are they going to like manipulate the avenues to
They're
get
writing the schedule, and then the rest
Yes.
of it, yeah, that's up to you guys.
Yes, 100%. Then I have another graphic here that shows kind of like the PSYOP tactical force structure, which like as you can see there's like the whole thing and then it's broken up into 4 sections and then each section has subsections, right?
One of the sections has quite a few.
Yeah. And this is basically just to show, it's just showing how it's set up, the system, like how many people are really involved when it comes to like a military forced psyop.
Yeah, so if it moves to a tactical psyop company,
Yeah.
then it's a mess, it looks like.
Yeah, because I
Like,
mean, you
it's-
got people with loudspeakers and people who are like driving around enforcing it. You got people who are, developing workstations
Could you
and
imagine
analyzing people like in the field.
could you imagine a van or just like Far Cry 4, I believe it was?
Okay.
There's just like in the villages, there's just like speakers. Eat cheese. Everybody eat cheese. And that's
Go
just
to the
like,
store.
they're like drilled into their head that they have to eat and consume and purchase cheese. The whole economy is based on cheese.
Is based on cheese. And then you have people in like Humvees with loudspeakers. You got like military person
exactly.
drive through
You got people
buy
in, like,
cheese.
four-wheelers with
Eat the
AKs.
cheese.
It's insane. I love this. I wish I could animate because this would be a really fun thing to
This would be
make.
so funny.
This would be amazing.
I want like a short film that's like super dystopian and fucked up, and like the whole premise is that the government's forcing people to eat cheese,
Exactly. Like
like by
it's
the
like oddly
pound.
really horrible and like gory, but it's
It
all about cheese.
it's kind of like some weird, like super brutalistic, like I'm getting almost like a Blade Runner territory
Yeah, yeah,
almost,
yeah,
like but like Hunger Gamesy at the same time. It's like you need to eat the cheese or we'll kill your family. It's like, oh,
You
okay.
have been chosen to fight Boss Cheese.
you,
I
it's like an
volunteer as
arena.
tribute.
I will eat the cheese.
Somebody make art.
And like I had said, all those points earlier about like the steps that it took, I kind of broke those down into like more easily digestible bullet points and steps. So before you are able to initiate the PSYOP, you have to analyze potential targets who would be the most beneficial to push this onto. Does that make sense?
Like you would want to target fast foods
With like the cheese, yeah.
because they're distributing hella burgers. They're
Hella
like, yo,
food.
give these people cheese because they have cheeseburgers.
And I'm assuming the fast food restaurant, like the cheese they're giving them is probably not healthy. So it's like, hey, here's this government cheese that's probably really bad for you, but put it on your food that's also bad for you.
Think about it, Super Bowl powered
Cheese.
on government cheese. You're
Oh,
eating those
yeah.
nachos, they're slathered in cheese.
Actually, though, like the cheese tunnels are like a pillar of the economy, if you think about it.
It
Like,
is.
like,
Cheese
like
built
all the
America.
money, then taxes that are going to the cheese tunnels are fueling like shit like the Super Bowl.
We don't run on oil, we run on
On
cheese.
cheese. So they have to determine what groups may be vulnerable and more susceptible to the PSYOP. And how they do that is they look for vulnerabilities such as complaints or problems or tensions or hidden motives, this perspective of certain groups. Basically, they're trying to look for anything that can be manipulated and played on. So, like, they can heighten a frustration into like a riot or like being angry at a certain thing. Or if there's a problem, they can be like, oh, like you need assistance. Well, we'll give you assistance and also throw in way too much cheese, right?
So okay, so Big Cheese is talking with Big Hospital, right?
Yeah.
You get a
Oh,
patient, has diarrhea, chronic diarrhea. What are you gonna do?
prescribed
You're
cheese.
gonna prescribe cheese.
Cheese pills.
That'll clog them up a little bit.
Mm.
They're gonna prescribe you to one wheel of cheese every 2 days. So you better get working.
And then if you think about it, then you're constipated and then it supplies the laxative market, which
Which
then
then, yes.
and then you need advertisements for the laxative or in that supplies. See, it's a whole
And it just keeps repeating. You have diarrhea, constipation.
basically they're trying to get you in a wheel.
I didn't expect this episode to be so shit forward, so I'm really sorry, guys.
I'm loving it.
Call him McDonald's.
So once they determine the target audience, then they can create the PSYOP, which that entails like obviously they have to determine like what they're trying to convince these people of and how they want to push these people into what direction. And then they have to pick a media that they want to portray this PSYOP through. So like billboards, newspapers, all that kind of shit. The news. Movies are really big with like the whole agenda thing. That's a whole conspiracy theory. And I wanted to bring like social media. Like, dude, how many fucking psyops do you think are being run through social media right now?
All of them.
Literally every single one of them. And then you have to determine like a possible test and then distribute it, start implementing it, and see how, like, you have to run a test to see how portable the idea is, which basically means how likely are these people to tell other people about cheese? How
Right.
likely are these people going to eat cheese and then convince other people to eat the cheese?
How are we
Right?
going to blow somebody's mind so hard that they tell everybody they know about this cheese?
Exactly. Exactly. Through manipulating their weaknesses, we need to convince people that cheese will fix them. So then you basically start implementing it and then collect data and adjust accordingly. And I feel like this whole conversation about the cheese kind of poses some really big questions.
And
Like
those are.
using public funds to influence diet choices, like even if it's not the best for like the health of the people.
I feel like that's bad. I would just hate to think that we are promoted to eat certain things that's
Hmm.
actually bad for us, but just because they want money, because then it's like, damn,
It's like they
our
don't really
lifespans be longer.
that. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like how much? I mean, you hear about the people who live in like some monastery in the middle of fucking Thailand that live to like 150 or some shit.
Right.
They live off fucking bark and
Grass,
universe.
that
Yeah,
space dust, baby.
that space shit, bro. And like, how do you like cheese as much as you do, or do you think you like cheese just because you think you should like
No,
cheese
don't
that
do this
much?
to me, man, because I'm
That's
really
what I'm
thinking about
saying.
getting a sandwich after this, just loaded
That's
with blue cheese.
that's what I'm saying. Like, are you sure
Fuck.
you want that, or do you just think you do because the government's in your brain?
It's all algorithm.
It's all a giant algorithm. The giant tech companies are convincing us to eat too much cheese, and it's gonna shorten our lifespans. And it's all just we're just being fed mold from the cheese island with the fucking conglomerated fish molds.
We're mold people.
We are mold people.
God damn it.
And then, like, do you think there's any psyops going on right now, either by the U.S. government or by other countries? Because like there 100% is. Like there has to be.
When's there not?
Like, when is someone not trying to convince you of something? You know what I'm saying?
Never. They're always you can't even walk to a damn Foot Locker without
No.
being harassed about cleaning your dirty white shoes.
Yeah, it's like if I wanted my shoes clean, I'd do it myself. I feel like this would be a good spot to end, but like I have some examples of other psyops that I kind of wanted to like brush through
Okay, let's get into it. Yeah, let's get some other
just because I wanted to kind of show like how far the psyop goes. You
the
know what I
psyop
mean?
industry.
Yeah,
Big
like I wanted to
psyop.
big psyop. If you thought cheese was bad, just wait. It's pretty, yeah. So we have the Operation Mockingbird from the 50s to the 70s. It was a covert CIA program that aimed to influence the media and to spread propaganda and to gather intelligence, which I thought they were already doing. But
I mean, that's
basic,
just a daily
that's
thing.
that's a daily
That's just
thing now.
normal. That's life now.
And the CIA was recruiting journalists and media outlets to disseminate their messages and push their narratives. And they would even pay journalists to publish stories that aligned with the government's interests to convince the public of whatever it is at the time they were trying to convince them.
So fake news.
Fake news.
Okay.
Operation Northwood in 1962. It was a proposed false flag operation by the U.S. Department of Defense to justify a military intervention in Cuba. I don't know if this ever happened because it was just proposed, but the plan was to basically commit acts of terrorism on the U.S. by hijacking planes and committing acts of sabotage, and then they would blame those terrorist attacks on Cuba, so
But
that
it'd be us hurting us.
it'd be like domestic terrorism and then blaming it on somebody else.
Nice.
So that the U.S. people were like, yeah, I want to attack Cuba. So that's a comforting thought.
That's a touchy one.
That one's, yeah. And then there's COINTELPRO. I don't know how if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I would
19
assume so.
I feel like someone just like hit the keyboard really hard, and that was the spelling of that word. This lasted from the 1956 to 1971. It was the FBI program was aimed at surveilling and infiltrating and disrupting public organizations, and they would target civil rights groups, feminist organizations, social groups, activist movements, basically, and spread false information and create internal conflicts to undermine the leadership of those groups and kind of like
Make
let
it
the
seem bad when it's not.
yeah, and like try to get like the government wanted some level of control over the activist groups, so they would like implement people to spread their agenda.
They just want their little grubby fingers and everything.
Yeah. So, but with that being said, go out and eat your cheese. Help
Eat the
reduce
cheese,
the
buy the
inflation with
cheese.
cheese. The cheese will solve all government problems.
And we can also help you solve your problems. If you
Mm.
like, subscribe, give us ratings on Spotify, Apple Music, all that good stuff. Run up those
Yes.
views, run up the listens. That'd be fantastic. We love you guys for coming back every week. That's always great. And we'll see you next week with some more of the gateway process.